Story 1. Chef. Source: I am a chef. Cooking is often glamorized. People who are skilled or interested in cooking are encouraged to pursue it professionally. Celebrity chefs make it seem like a lucrative, glamorous career. The reality involves very long days with low pay, even for highly skilled work. Story 2. Zookeeper. You need a degree but get paid around $14 per hour, so someone has to be financially supporting you or you will not be able to pay all your bills. It is also physically demanding work outside in any weather, and the workload is so heavy that your body may start breaking down even in your 20s. You spend so much time cleaning that there is barely any time for enjoyment, play, or enrichment for the animals you care for. The staff are all animal enthusiasts like yourself and probably do not get along well with others, which leads to poor staff relationships. Dealing with visitors can be challenging, as parents often do not supervise their children who run around banging on enclosure glass. Adults do this too, trying to get animals to move or react, which is disrespectful and cruel to the animals in their home. The burnout rate for zookeepers is one of the highest among career paths. It can take a toll on your finances, your body, and your mental health. Story 3. Anything film industry. 12-hour days, zero job security, ego, hubris, narcissism, no personal life. Source: I have made poor life decisions. 18 years in, I am 44, a little late to start a new career. But here I am. Story 4. Any job that requires frequent international travel is fun and exciting at first, but becomes boring and tiresome after a while. Story 5. Video game quality assurance tester. Some people think it is a party where you just play video games all day. However, quality assurance is often undervalued by the rest of the teams, and the monotonous and repetitive test plans and compliance checks can completely take the enjoyment out of video games. Story 6. So what I'm getting from this thread is every job is unpleasant, and I should instead move to the mountains and live self-sufficiently by tent camping for the rest of my life. Story 7. Graphic design. Overworked, underpaid, misunderstood, and highly undervalued. Anyone with Canva thinks they can do your job. As a creative person, having to produce creativity on demand, like a waitress at a diner, burns you out quickly. Story 8. Not a job, but starting your own business. Everyone says you're your own boss and you handle your own time, but the truth is you'll work more than you ever did for someone else. Every problem becomes your problem. You often end up earning less anyway. The odds are stacked against you because most of the time, there is a bigger business with lower prices but better margins since they have capital. As a result, most people who start small businesses often still work elsewhere to support their business because it is hard to compete. Story 9. Former film actor here. It has some good parts, but it also involves many long days and nights, travel, waiting around, and repetitive takes. Worse is the impact on your self-esteem. You learn to view yourself as a product and to compete with others who also see themselves that way. You get used to being told that it does not matter what you can do as much as whether you look the right way while doing it. It is dehumanizing, especially if you are a young person and particularly if you are a young woman. Story 10. Physician, specifically primary care in the United States. Yes, it pays well, but you sacrifice your 20s doing a ton of school, missing events, and accumulating $250,000 to $500,000 of debt. Then you finally become an attending physician, only to realize you cannot do your job well because insurance companies constantly fight you to avoid paying for things that would make patients healthier, since their bottom line depends on it. It makes you lose faith in humanity because the system is severely flawed. A lot of your time is drained by calls for prior authorizations with insurance companies, which are productive only a minority of the time and must be done during unpaid hours. Also, you will have many patients who need to stop smoking, stop drinking, and eat healthier, but they will not. Story 11. Video game quality assurance. Calling it trash is overblown. However, it is not as awesome and fun as people think. They receive a lot of the blame when bugs are found in a live game, but most of the time they did find the bugs and someone higher up decided not to fix them. They work very hard and get paid very little. Story 12. Flight attendant is definitely glorified. Yes, you get to travel, but the pay is low, the hours are long, and you have to deal with difficult people. Story 13. Anything related to sales often emphasizes the potential earnings. In reality, it involves significant pressure and limited financial gain. Story 14. These kinds of comment threads damaged my mental health in my early 20s and convinced me not to pursue many of my passions. If you are reading this and feel drawn to a career mentioned here, go for it. Reddit has a major negativity bias. Story 15. Controversial opinion, but I think surgeons have a tough time. I dated one and he had many issues and stress. All of his surgeon friends were equally affected. They were extraordinarily gifted people, but I think treating people like cars in a repair shop can affect your brain. The pressure must be intense. Story 16. Banking. The banking system was hyped. Back in high school, I always thought once I was done with schooling as a banking and finance graduate, I would probably become a millionaire immediately. Story 17. I'll be the first commenter to mention an actually hyped up job. Construction trades. Everyone says, don't go to college, go into the trades these days. The pay is overhyped. Yes, you can make six figures if you put in a large number of hours, but wouldn't you rather work less for more money? You also run the risk of seriously damaging your body by the time you are 40. Many experienced workers I have talked to, and even some younger ones, said it was not worth it. Story 18. Adult film performer. People think, oh, you get paid to have sex with many partners. They don't understand how difficult and unpleasant it actually is. Story 19. Engineering. The working conditions for engineers are actually quite good, and in many ways better than other professional jobs. So why is it an issue? It is a question of unmet expectations. Most engineers study engineering because they enjoy mathematics, problem solving, and generally tinkering with things. Unfortunately, most engineering positions require no day-to-day mathematics at all. For example, I might have needed to do something more complicated than calculus twice in 10 years. Instead, you spend all your time filling out paperwork and attending tedious meetings. Then, you end up getting pigeonholed in a specific niche, making it nearly impossible to move outside that niche. As a result, you can spend 30 years just designing office building ventilation and nothing else. Many engineers dream of designing airplanes, boats, or robots, but instead spend every week filling out reports. Story 20. Social media manager. Everyone thinks it is just vibing online and posting memes, but in reality, it is constant burnout, impossible expectations, 24/7 availability, and getting blamed for every drop in engagement as if you personally offended the algorithm. Additionally, everyone from the intern to the chief executive officer thinks they can do your job better. Story 21. Scrolling through this makes me depressed. It seems like all the jobs out there are bad, and most of the time the reason is low pay and long hours. Why can't we, as humanity, fix this problem and give people decent pay for 35 hours a week of work? Story 22. Registered nurse. I have been doing this for 12 years. If I could do anything else for the money I make now, I would, but I cannot. So I am somewhat stuck. Story 23. Librarian. No, we do not get to sit around and read all day. We deal with difficult members of the public. Low wages and understaffing make the job challenging. We also handle people who challenge books without fully understanding them. Bookstore. Retail work is very demanding. Story 24. Drug dealer. What you imagine, Walter White or someone with a lot of jewelry and an expensive SUV. The reality. You live in a mostly abandoned trailer park. All your friends are fake and constantly ask for free drugs. You are probably addicted to something yourself, and you have to deal with desperate drug addicts for a living. I used to be an addict, and that is not ideal. All for the same amount of money the average waiter at a busy restaurant makes. Story 25. Being an artist is not glamorous. People constantly try to bargain prices or say things like, my toddler could do that. There are many status seekers and attention seekers. It is a grind. People take advantage of new artists frequently. Burnout is real. Story 26. Psychologist. Movies make many people think it is cool and want to become one. The reality is that most people want their life or problems to be different, but do not actually want to do the work to change. Therefore, most of the time, talking to difficult people is a waste of time. The ones who are enjoyable to work with are serious and do the hard work to change, so you do not get to work with them very long because they improve. Story 27. Tech sales can be highly lucrative. You do not need multiple degrees or to spend hundreds of thousands on medical or law school. However, the pressure is real. The work never stops. Artificial intelligence and constant changes can impact your ability to sell, and your income depends on others completing their tasks and following through on their commitments. There are many variables beyond your control. Additionally, your manager or director might be difficult, and there may be little you can do about it. Story 28. Game developers. From what I have heard, major game studios take young and enthusiastic programmers who want to work in the gaming industry, exhaust their passion, and then wear them down. They work long, grueling hours to meet deadlines for financial managers who need to increase their quarterly earnings and prepare for the big holiday releases. Story 29. Working in comics. It is extremely hard on your body to be at the drawing table 14 hours a day. The pay has not increased substantially since the 1980s, and the talent pool has become an ocean. Companies hardly pay royalties anymore. Your independent comic probably will not be a hit and will not get a production deal from Hollywood. If a character you created ends up in a Marvel movie, the odds are good you will not see any earnings or a career boost. Collaborators are unreliable. You need a stable partner to help support you and get your foot in the door. All it takes is an editor change to lose all your hard work. The odds are good you will die young. It is really rewarding to make a good comic book, though. Story 30. As someone in their mid-20s who has not yet figured out what they want to do with their life, this subreddit is kind of depressing. It sounds like almost every job is unenjoyable and does not pay as much as you think. I guess I just have to find something I am passionate about and hope it works out. Story 31. Lawyer. Too many law schools producing too many lawyers. The intelligence and quality of many lawyers is inadequate. Similar to veterinarians, the people who need lawyers the most typically cannot afford them. Story 32. Scientist. The research work is valuable. However, as an applied researcher for a government agency, you spend a significant amount of time justifying the importance of your work to decision makers who determine your future but are not scientists themselves. Story 33. Management. Even worse, middle management. Even if you are blessed with good employees, it is just a grind. Always worrying about people's attitudes and putting out fires. I went back to an individual contributor role, and if offered, I would not accept a promotion to run a team for more money. Story 34. Consulting. It was the business school dream. They hyped this up so much. It is just building PowerPoint decks all day and taking requests from partners and clients. Story 35. I don't know if this counts, but I'm watching Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Lydia makes logistics sound much more interesting than it is. I oversee 9 warehouses in 7 states doing over $1 billion in freight. Maybe being in the meth business made it more interesting, but it's spreadsheets, Lydia. You look at spreadsheets. Story 36. With the way my state is misappropriating public school funds and the curriculum they are pushing, teaching anything from kindergarten through 12th grade. Story 37. International business or international law, which really means you are on work calls at 2 a.m. due to the time zones. Story 38. Working in situation comedy television production is great if you are one of the main actors, but if you work below the line, such as a set builder, you might start at 4 a.m. and leave at 8 p.m., doing construction all day. All for some sitcom you would have no interest in watching anyway, like The George Lopez Show. Good union benefits, though. Story 39. Locomotive engineer or train driver. The classic childhood dream job that pays well with no formal qualifications. In reality, you miss birthdays, Christmas, weekends, and more. You are constantly monitored with cameras and event recorders. The days of having freedom to do anything other than being a glorified button pusher are long gone. Artificial intelligence is rapidly replacing jobs, and shift work with irregular sleep patterns is harmful to health. Story 40. Being a real estate agent shows making it seem like everything runs smoothly, but there is so much competition because there are many real estate agents. You have to pay for a lot of things besides your licensing. Many agents do not even make significant money, and you are basically on call 24/7. Story 41. Childcare provider. Oh, you get to play with kids all day. No. I try to keep multiple tiny humans alive and unharmed despite their constant efforts to maim each other, all while providing enrichment opportunities and assessing development. Then I get yelled at by parents for not being perfect enough at it, all while making a couple of dollars more than minimum wage. Story 42. I went the computer science route and now sit at a computer every day, so it was expected. However, I realize now that I love being outside. I wish I had been a firefighter or a forest ranger. Story 43. I have to say, after reading these posts, thank you everyone for all you do, whatever it is that you do. Thank you for giving everyone the opportunity to connect with you and for what you give and do. Each of you can and do make a difference, especially those who take pride in their work. I respect you and you motivate me. The things you have done and given do make a difference in people's lives. I wish I could describe all the contributions each of you make. Thank you for what you provide and for helping to make our lives better. Story 44. Homicide detectives arrive after the crime. I am not even sure they are the ones who make the actual arrest when they solve the case. Even if they do, they come with a large team. They are never at the end of the Silence of the Lambs or similar situations. Story 45. Emergency medical technician sounds impressive, but unless you are a paramedic, you are most likely providing non-emergency transportation, taking people to and from dialysis centers or moving patients between nursing facilities throughout your shift. Shifts can last 24 hours, with slightly above minimum wage for the first 8 hours. You do not perform any invasive procedures because you are not qualified to do so at this level. Typically, you are overworked and underpaid. Story 46. Every job becomes difficult over time. The more it involves people, the harder it gets. Consider flight attendants. How do they bring themselves to board the plane after years of dealing with passengers whose behavior worsens? I can barely tolerate it and only fly occasionally. I cannot imagine how city bus drivers manage. Story 47. Grocery store owner. It is often assumed that the public demonizes you for price inflation and believes you are a rich millionaire laughing with your money while people struggle to afford food. The reality is margins are razor thin. Customers can be disrespectful to staff and products. If you change your mind, leave the item with your cashier. Do not dump it in a random freezer or aisle, as it will be stored at an incorrect temperature. This increases costs for everyone. The job often requires 55 to 60 hours a week. People underestimate the demands and qualifications necessary to be successful. It is not just putting cans on the shelf. Lastly, you sacrifice much of your own family time, including weekends and holidays, to serve the public who often do not appreciate or respect you. Story 48. Dispensary bud tender. I worked at one of the first medical dispensaries in Ohio back in 2020. It was absolutely awful. The customers were very unpleasant for no reason. They would walk in ready to fight with everyone about everything every single day. The company itself was terrible. There was constant pressure to sell more product, but we were not allowed to make certain claims or we would get in trouble with the Ohio Board of Pharmacy because they were always monitoring through the cameras. I worked there for a year and was promoted very quickly, which was good. However, it drained the life out of me while I was there. Everyone says it was probably the best job ever, and I mean, it was good, but not good enough to be worth all the stress. Story 49. Video game programmer and developer. I hear many people on the internet talking about how it is their dream job. They speak at length about how video games mean everything to them and they want to create their dream games. Game development work is long and tedious. Replicating bugs so you can eliminate them is tedious. Getting the gameplay just right is tedious. It is also hard on your finances. Game development does not pay well for most people working on the front lines. I was a game programmer and lead programmer a few times, but I was not making much money, even though programmers are generally paid more than the rest of the staff. We were living paycheck to paycheck. It is also challenging for your resume. Why did you only work at Company B for 6 months? They went out of business. And Company D? They went out of business. And Company E? They went out of business. That is, if you even get an interview with such an inconsistent curriculum vitae. It looks bad, but it is rarely your fault. You rarely get to work on your dream game. Most of the games you work on are assigned to you no matter what they are about. My one dream game never got published. The parent company shut down our entire division after about 6 months. They were horrified that it could take 18 months or more to develop a game. They thought it could be done in a couple of months. I loved my time in the game industry, but it was volatile and very different than I imagined. I earned much less than my counterparts in traditional software development. I also had to move frequently just to work my next position. Story 50. Cybersecurity. It is probably going to be eliminated by artificial intelligence, and the actual job consists mainly of unproductive meetings. Story 51. Anything at an advertising agency except owner. I have worked for people who make Donald Draper look like a toothless kitten. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.